He invited her to the country club to humiliate her. A rich man full of pride thinking his housekeeper didn't belong on his perfect golf course. But when she showed up, everything changed. The crowd went silent. The first swing made them gasp. And by the end of the day, the one who planned to embarrass her would be the one learning the hardest lesson of his life. Respect can't be bought. And dignity, that's earned. One swing at a time. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and comment below where in the world you're watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. Thomas Greaves stared at his reflection in the large hallway mirror, adjusting the collar of his crisp golf shirt. Sunlight spilled into the foyer of his grand estate, casting a golden glow on marble floors and priceless artwork. To everyone in the town of Green Hollow, Thomas was the man who had it all: money, power, and the kind of confidence that came from always getting his way. But beneath that polished surface, there was a part of Thomas that enjoyed reminding others of their place, especially those who worked for him. In the kitchen, Naomi Fields moved quietly, placing fresh fruit in a silver bowl on the long dining table. She had been Thomas's housekeeper for 6 years. Her hands were steady, her movements practiced. Behind her calm face was a woman who had learned to keep her thoughts to herself. Every job she took, every long hour she worked, was for her son Eli. He was her reason for everything. "Naomi," Thomas said as he walked in, not bothering to thank her for breakfast. "I'm hosting a charity golf match at the Green Hollow Country Club this afternoon." He sat down, sipping his coffee slowly, watching her out of the corner of his eye. "Some of the town's most important people will be there," he continued with a smirk. "Maybe you'd like to come?" Naomi paused, holding a plate in her hand. She looked up, meeting his eyes. His tone was playful, but she knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't an invitation. It was a joke. Thomas expected her to decline. Maybe he even hoped she'd feel embarrassed just thinking about it. But something shifted in Naomi that morning. Maybe it was the way he smiled, like he was already laughing at her behind his teeth. Maybe it was the memory of all the times he had dismissed her like she was invisible. "I think I will," she said quietly. "What time should I be there?" Thomas blinked, caught off guard. "You're serious?" "Yes," she replied, her voice calm. "Well," he said, recovering, "it starts at noon, but the club has very strict dress codes. You might have trouble finding something suitable." "Don't worry about me, Mr. Greaves. I'll manage." She turned back to her work as if nothing had happened, but Thomas watched her for a long moment, unsure of what he had just started. Later that morning, Naomi stood outside her friend Cora's shop, holding a wrinkled piece of paper with the address. Cora greeted her with a smile, already knowing something unusual was going on. "You need a golf outfit?" Cora asked, raising an eyebrow. "I do," Naomi said, trying not to smile. "One that makes people stop and stare." Cora grinned and pulled her inside. They searched through racks until they found a white and navy outfit that fit Naomi perfectly. The look in Cora's eyes said it all. "You're going to turn heads," she said, adjusting Naomi's collar. "But are you sure about this? Thomas Greaves is not the kind of man who plays fair." "I know exactly what he is," Naomi replied. "But it's time someone reminded him that respect has nothing to do with money." As she changed back into her regular clothes, Naomi's thoughts drifted back to her past. She hadn't told anyone, but during her college days she had worked at that very same country club. While scrubbing floors and cleaning golf carts, she'd learned to play by watching others. An old groundskeeper named Joe had taught her the basics, letting her practice in the early mornings before her shift began. She remembered the feel of the club in her hands, the silence before the swing, and the way her heart had raced when the ball flew straight and far. It had been years, but the rhythm was still in her. She could feel it returning with every breath. Meanwhile, back at the Greaves estate, Thomas was pacing his office, phone pressed to his ear. "You won't believe this," he laughed to his friend Sam. "I invited Naomi to the tournament as a joke, and she actually said yes." "Isn't that a bit cruel?" Sam asked, uncertain. "Come on," Thomas replied. "It's harmless fun. Besides, it'll be the highlight of the day. Can you imagine her trying to play golf with the town's elite?" Sam didn't answer right away. Thomas didn't notice. He was already planning how the whole thing would unfold, but he had no idea who Naomi really was. And by the end of the day, it wouldn't be her who felt out of place. As noon approached, both Thomas and Naomi prepared in different corners of Green Hollow, one dressed in luxury and pride, the other in quiet strength and purpose. They were about to meet on the same field, but they were playing very different games, and neither of them could predict what would happen when the first ball was struck. The sun was high above Green Hollow as Thomas Greaves stepped out of his sleek black car. He handed the keys to the valet at the country club and straightened his jacket. The other members were already arriving, sipping sparkling water and talking business on the finely cut lawn. Everything looked perfect. "This is going to be better than television," Thomas whispered to his friend Sam, barely hiding his grin. "Wait until they see her." Inside the clubhouse, Naomi Fields stood in front of a mirror, taking a slow breath. Her white and navy golf outfit fit like it had been made for her. Her curls were tied neatly behind her head, and her eyes held a quiet fire. She wasn't here to make a scene. She was here to make a statement. When she walked through the main doors and onto the course, the crowd hushed. A few people whispered. Some blinked in surprise. Others just stared. "Who is that?" someone asked aloud. "Isn't that Thomas's housekeeper?" said another. But nobody laughed. Not the way Thomas had expected. Instead, people noticed the way Naomi walked. Calm. Graceful. Like someone who belonged. Rita Langston, one of the town's most respected philanthropists, stepped forward and offered a hand. "I don't think we've met," Rita said warmly. "I'm Rita, Naomi Fields," she replied with a kind smile. "It's a pleasure, Naomi," Rita said, truly meaning it. Meanwhile, Thomas watched from a distance, frowning. This wasn't the reaction he had planned. Where was the snickering? The raised eyebrows? "What's happening?" he muttered. Naomi joined the group at the first hole. Thomas walked over, clapping his hands together. "Well, here we are," he said loudly. "Let's see what you've got, Naomi." Naomi nodded. She stepped up to the tee, adjusted her stance, and took a deep breath. The club swung in a smooth arc. Crack. The sound of the ball being hit echoed across the course. It soared into the sky, clean and true, before landing right in the center of the fairway. A murmur rose from the crowd. "That was impressive," Sam said quietly. "Beginner's luck," Thomas muttered, his jaw tight. Rita clapped. "I think we've all underestimated our new friend." Thomas's smile was tight now. Well, one good shot doesn't make a game. He stepped up to the tee himself, determined to show everyone who the real golfer was. His swing was powerful, but the ball veered off into the rough. "Tough break," Naomi said gently. "Would you like a few tips?" A few chuckles broke out, and Thomas's ears turned red. As the game continued, it became clear that Naomi wasn't just lucky. She was skilled. Her form was elegant, her focus sharp. She made shot after shot with quiet confidence. Between holes, she spoke easily with the others, sharing light stories about her life and her son Eli. "He wants to be an architect," she told Rita, "always building little towers out of whatever he can find." Thomas followed behind, hearing pieces of conversation. For the first time, he realized he didn't know much about her. She had worked in his house for 6 years, but he had never asked about her life, her dreams, or even her name beyond giving orders. At the 9th hole, Naomi was leading. The crowd was no longer watching her with curiosity. They were watching with admiration. Thomas couldn't take it anymore. "This is ridiculous," he said loudly. "This is supposed to be a serious match, not some feel-good story." Rita turned sharply. "She's playing by the rules and winning fair and square. The only thing ridiculous here is your attitude." Others nodded. Thomas felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Embarrassment. He cleared his throat. "Fine," he said, trying to stay composed. "Let's raise the stakes." He turned to Naomi. "Next hole. You and me. If you win, I'll donate $50,000 to any charity you choose. If I win, you resign from your position in my house. Deal?" A silence fell over the group. Before Rita could protest, Naomi raised her hand. I accept, she said. And if I win, I want the money to go to the Green Hollow Youth Center. They've been trying to start a golf program for kids. Thomas laughed coldly. Confident for someone who cleans floors. And you're confident for someone who's been losing all day, she replied with a calm smile. They moved to the next hole. It was the toughest on the course with narrow fairways and water on both sides. Thomas hit first. His shot was strong, landing in the center. He turned to Naomi. Beat that. Naomi took her time. She lined up her shot, thought of her son, of old Joe who had taught her, and of every person who had ever been told they weren't good enough. She swung. The ball soared past Thomas's, landing in a perfect position near the green. Gasps followed. Thomas's second shot went into a sand trap. His third bounced off the green. By the time he finished, he had taken 7 strokes. Naomi finished with 4. The crowd clapped. Some even cheered. She did it, Rita said, shaking her head in amazement. She really did it. Naomi turned. To Thomas, her voice steady. Thank you for the invitation. For once, Thomas had nothing to say. The crowd moved toward the clubhouse, but Thomas stood frozen. Everything he had planned had fallen apart, and yet something about the way Naomi looked at him, not with spite, but with strength, left him speechless. A single swing had changed the entire game. The next morning, the small town of Green Hollow was buzzing. Photos and videos from the golf match had already begun to spread. In nearly every clip, Naomi Fields was seen smiling politely, swinging with ease, and walking off the course with grace. Her name, once unknown outside Thomas Greaves's mansion, was now being whispered across golf clubs, cafes, and living rooms. Meanwhile, Thomas sat alone in his office, staring at his phone screen. The video of Naomi's final swing had been viewed over 50,000 times overnight. Comments poured in. Some laughed at his arrogance. Others praised Naomi's skill. But what struck him most were the ones calling him out for using the match to humiliate her. Maybe you deserved it, one comment read. She showed more class in one game than you have your whole career. He closed the phone and leaned back in his chair, for once unsure of himself. There was a soft knock at the door. It was Sam, his friend and business partner. You all right? Sam asked. Not really, Thomas admitted. I've spent my life thinking respect came from money and status. But yesterday, she made me look like a fool. And I think she was right to. Sam nodded and sat across from him. I heard from Rita this morning. She wants to offer Naomi a role helping lead the new youth program. Thomas looked up, surprised. She's not coming back to work here? Would you? Sam asked. Thomas didn't answer. Deep down, he already knew. Meanwhile, across town, Naomi stood in a small office space that belonged to Rita Langston's charity. Papers were spread across a desk showing plans for a youth golf initiative. We've been trying to start this for years, Rita explained, but never found the right person to lead it. Until now. Naomi blinked. Me? You? Rita said firmly. You have the skills, the experience, and more importantly, the heart. Naomi looked down, thinking of her son Eli. She had taken so many jobs for him, put aside so many dreams, but here was something different, something real. I'll need to think about it, she said softly. Rita smiled. Take your time, but something tells me you were made for this. Back at the Greaves estate, Thomas walked through his quiet home. It felt different now, emptier somehow. He paused in the hallway where a painting of his father hung, a stern man in a suit, eyes cold and calculating. Thomas had spent his life following in those footsteps, but lately he was starting to wonder if that path had led him somewhere wrong. His phone rang. Hello? He answered. Mr. Greaves? The voice on the other end was female, professional. This is Elena Wells, a reporter with the Green Hollow Press. We've received some documents about your company's past land deals. I was hoping you'd comment before we run the story. Thomas felt a chill. What kind of documents? Ones that suggest your father cut corners, bribed inspectors, built homes on unstable land during the development of Greaves Ridge 15 years ago. His stomach turned. I can't comment right now. Understood, Elena replied. But the story runs tomorrow. He hung up, face pale. Thomas had always known his father was ruthless in business. But he had believed the worst was just rumor. Now the past was rising like dust from beneath the floorboards. He grabbed his coat and keys and left the house. When he arrived at Rita's office, Naomi was just stepping out. They looked at each other for a long moment. I didn't think I'd see you again, she said. I didn't plan to, Thomas admitted. But something's happening, something bigger than us. He explained what the reporter had said. As he spoke, Naomi's expression changed from cold to concerned. If it's true, she said slowly, then families could be living in unsafe homes. I know, Thomas said. I don't know what to do. Naomi studied him. This wasn't the same man who had mocked her days ago. His voice was quieter, his shoulders lower. Something in him had changed. Then let's find out the truth, she said. Together. Thomas stared at her, confused. After everything I did, why would you help me? Because this isn't just about you, she said. It's about the town, the people, and maybe it's about you finally choosing to do the right thing. Together they went to the town records office. With help from Rita and a few old files, they began to piece together the history of Greaves Ridge. What they found was worse than Thomas had imagined. Faulty foundations, fake reports, deals signed under pressure. It was clear his father had built his fortune on lies. That night, Thomas stood on the balcony of his home, staring into the dark sky. Naomi's words echoed in his mind. Do the right thing. He picked up the phone and called the reporter back. This is Thomas Greaves, he said. I'm ready to talk. The next morning, the Green Hollow Press printed a front-page story. Thomas Greaves admits family's shady past, vows to make things right. Residents were shocked. Some were angry. But others were hopeful. Naomi watched the news with Eli beside her. He turned to her with wide eyes. You really changed things, Mom. She smiled and kissed his forehead. It's just the beginning, she said, and she meant it. A week after the story broke, Green Hollow was no longer the same. At the town square, people gathered in small circles, reading updates from the paper, and whispering about what Thomas Greaves had confessed. For years, his family had been untouchable. Now everything had changed, but the biggest change was in Thomas himself. He no longer walked with the same proud step. Instead, he moved with quiet purpose, visiting the neighborhoods his father had once built on unstable land. He spoke to families face to face, apologizing not with grand speeches but with promises to do better, and actions to back them up. Naomi watched from a distance during one of those visits. Standing next to Rita, she saw the way people responded to Thomas. Some were skeptical, others curious, but more and more were starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, he meant what he said. Rita turned to her. You helped start this, you know. None of this would have happened without you. Naomi shook her head. I didn't plan to start anything. I just wanted to be treated with respect. And now a whole town is watching someone learn how to give it. Meanwhile, the Green Hollow Youth Center was finally coming to life. Naomi had accepted the offer to lead the new golf program, and she wasted no time getting to work. Kids from all parts of town came to practice on the same course where she had once worked behind the scenes. One afternoon, Thomas showed up to the center. He stood awkwardly at the edge of the field, holding a box in his arms. I brought some extra clubs, he said. Thought maybe the kids could use them. Naomi raised an eyebrow. You sure you don't need them for another tournament? He smiled. I think I'm retired from those. They stood in silence for a moment, watching a group of children swing and laugh. Eli ran across the grass, helping a younger boy hold a club properly. He's a good kid, Thomas said quietly. He's the reason I do everything. Naomi replied. I wanted to tell you, Thomas began slowly. I've decided to sell my father's company. All of it. The profits will go toward fixing the damage we caused and building something better. Naomi turned to him, surprised. That's a big step. It's time, he said. For years, I thought legacy meant protecting a name. Now I think it means leaving something behind that actually helps people. She nodded. Then maybe there's still hope for you. He hesitated. And there's something else. Naomi raised an eyebrow again. More surprises? Not the bad kind, I promise, he said. I've been thinking about that day on the course, the moment everything changed. I realized something. What's that? You didn't just beat me at golf, he said softly. You taught me how to lose and how to grow from it. Naomi looked away for a moment, watching the kids. Growth is good, she said, but it's not a straight line. Some days you move forward, some days you trip. What matters is getting back up. Then, I want to keep getting up, Thomas replied. And I'd like to have you beside me if you'll allow it. Naomi turned to face him fully now. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Not yet, he said with a smile. Not today, but maybe someday, when I've earned the right to ask. Naomi smiled back, not giving an answer but not walking away either. That weekend, the town held a community picnic at the golf course, now open to everyone, not just club members. Food trucks lined the lot, music played, and laughter filled the air. The mayor gave a short speech thanking those who had helped bring the town together. She named Naomi and Thomas as two people who had shown that change was possible, even in the most unexpected ways. This course used to be a symbol of status, the mayor said. Now it's a symbol of second chances. At the end of the day, a small tournament was held for fun. Children and adults took turns trying to make the longest drive. Eli stepped up with his mother beside him, ready to cheer. Let's see if I can beat your record, he teased. Good luck, Naomi said, laughing. When it was Thomas's turn, he walked to the tee holding a slightly dented club and smiled at Naomi. One more game? He asked. She joined him without hesitation. This time there were no prizes, no bets, no hidden motives. Just two people swinging clubs under the fading sun, their shadows long and peaceful across the green. As the ball soared into the sky, cheers rose behind them. And just like that, Green Hollow's story took one final swing, not with anger or pride, but with hope, because sometimes the biggest wins don't come from victory, they come from change.